second trustee. Now, clearly he assumed they would get along. Now, why did he appoint a second trustee? Either he just didn't want his wife to have to worry about all these business issues,
right,
or he wanted someone else in the room to monitor things. Either way, she doesn't like it.
She would have had to sign off on the marital trust to begin with, right? You can't.
No, that's part of Jimmy's. And Jimmy had a very. The irony here is he had a very detailed, well-constructed plan for this estate, and it still fell apart because of often the reason they fell apart, which is personalities and emotions. And she just doesn't want somebody else overseeing what to do. And he, Mosenter, for his part, says, I represent what Jimmy would have wanted, and he would have wanted oversight. He wouldn't have wanted.
You ought to be able to get 10%, not 1%.
Well, a lot of these assets are illiquid, and they're also not income producing. Now, we don't know what the song catalog is. That wasn't listed as an asset in this case, so we don't know what kind of income that produces. Although Margaritaville in the previous quarter was throwing off like $14 million a year. So why that wasn't in this projection of $2 million, we don't know.
Well, that does seem pretty.
Over the next 25 years, they are seeing a flood of cases around estate transfers. And again, no matter how well constructed the plan might be, had multiple shares or equity in multiple planes.
In multiple planes. And, and I don't know how you get to that number in cars.
What do you say? I made enough money to buy Miami, but I pissed it all away. Never meant to last. Never meant to last.
Yeah.
You use the P word. I like that. What kind of car? what kind of cars?
We don't know. We just know that it's $5 million
we don't know
in
how
cars,
many or what.
$2 million in musical equipment, which.
Inside Wealth is sponsored by Corient, wealth management centered around you.
At Corient, wealth management begins and ends with you. We believe the more personal the solution, the more powerful the result. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. And our experienced advisors design custom-built strategies to help you get there. It's time for a wealth management experience as sophisticated as you are. It's time for Corient.
America is built with perseverance, resilience, and determination. And you can put that strength to work in your portfolio with BAM Mutual Insured Bonds.
Welcome to CNBC Plus, market destination.
Order submitted.
Streaming live to all Hulu subscribers. Presented by Ray-Ban Meta. Iconic style meets Meta AI.
At Ace, we know whether you grill with charcoal, gas, pellet, or griddle, we've got the perfect grill for you. Because only your local Ace has all the best brands in one place, like Weber, Big Green Egg, Traeger, and Blackstone. With free assembly and delivery of your new grill, along with all the sauces, rubs, and grilling extras, you'll have everything you need for your perfect barbecue. That sounds pretty perfect. Around the block, what you need in stock, with service so good it's guaranteed.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Coming up, turning down the temperature between the U.S. and China, negotiators agreeing to a framework, at least, for future trade talks. We're going to talk to Richard Haas about the next steps in dealing with China. He's also a golfer. So, you know what that means. Squawk Box returns in just a moment.
Hello, guys. Good morning.
Decking and railing that stands up to whatever you ask and bends to your every whim. Trax,
Bugatti.
Performance engineered for your life outdoors.
Yes, let's go. Ugly, Bugatti.
With Poof Kitty products. Get Poof at Amazon.com today.
This is the one. She fixes, she manages, she perfects. Because maintaining this space transports her to this space. The industrial grade product you need. Call, click, or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
As a business owner, I've got a lot on my plate. That's why I use ZipRecruiter to hire. ZipRecruiter has this feature called Zip Intro.
I chose the time, and it did all of the work of finding and scheduling the candidates for me. I just picked my top choices and talked to great people the very next day. The plan was to hire 2 people, but the candidate quality was so good, I wound up hiring 4 in a week.
Zip Intro. Post jobs today, talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Try it free only at ZipRecruiter.com/CNBC.
How do you build an insurance partnership that looks this effortless? At Sentry, experience has taught us it takes effort. You have big goals for your business. We spend years working with you to protect them, listening and learning, identifying the risks together, investing 120 years of knowledge to prepare you for what's ahead, and earning your trust every day, which all starts with a single conversation.
Order
Sentry,
canceled.
right by you.
If the current crop keeps going higher and higher still, and we keep having so much froth in the rest of the market, then we are indeed headed to the danger zone. Not yet, but soon.
Mad Money, weeknight 6 Eastern and streaming on CNBC+.
The U.S. and China reached a trade agreement over rare earth minerals and magnets, and also technology going the other way. After 2 days of high-level talks in London, the deal will now need approval from both President Trump and China's President Xi. And joining us now is Richard Haas, Counsel on Foreign Relations President Emeritus, and Clearview Partners Senior Counsel. And as after our representatives, it was either Howard Lutnick or Jameson Greer, after they put out the details, we have arrived at the Chinese delegation was nodding, and this is, at least at this point, we don't have to ask whether it's just us saying that something was arrived at.
Yeah, but the something was not.
We don't know the something.
We don't know.
What do you think the something is?
Basically a truce. Look, you've got a two-front trade war. You've got the tariff war, and there we've got to let it play out a little bit over the next month or two. And now you've got the export control trade war. And this was focusing on the latter, on the export controls. And I think what you basically have is the China saying, yeah, we'll ease up on our limits on these so-called rare earths.
We say.
And what we're going to do is basically saying, if you do that, then we'll ease up on certain high-tech exports to you. That's essentially what's on the table.
And that's up to President Trump, exactly which high-tech.
Well, traditionally, the high-tech issues are decided more than anybody by the Commerce Department. That's why Lutnick was at these talks. These were less, if you will.
He has to sign off on it, though.
He has to. And
President Trump needs to sign off on it.
Yeah, he do. And traditionally, also the Secretary of Defense and others would be involved because these are, and the intelligence community would be involved. Given the national security implications of these things, again, whether it's chips, jet engines, and so forth.
So I'm remembering how it happened because I remember what happened to the markets each time. And time goes so quick. So it was initially, China's not talking. China's not talking. It's horrible. China's not talking. Then, okay, we're going to meet in Geneva. Then we did Geneva. Everyone was excited. Market went up. All we are right now really is back to Geneva.
We are back, yeah, that's why this is, the market reaction apparently is what it is. I don't know whether to call this by the technical phrase, nothing burger, but we kind of been there, didn't amount
for the markets, but it's a significant in that it's at least a step along the way to détente, at least. Right?
Exactly. It's not a treaty, if you will, it's a truce. And the real question is, one, how substantive, how long does it last? And as I said, you've got two fronts in this trade war. So even if this helps on the export control front, it doesn't necessarily deal with the tariff front.
How do we separate out the security aspects and the trade aspects? Because I'm wondering what this agreement, does this put us 10% of the way towards a trade agreement? And that doesn't even include the security and the things we'd like them to stop doing in terms of intellectual theft and, I mean, there's in Taiwan and spy balloons.
It's interesting. In negotiations, you've got two approaches to them traditionally. Either you can keep it really narrow and just try to get one thing resolved, or you can almost do the fruit salad approach and basically say, we're going to add everything to the mix. Now, what China's going to want in the mix more than anything has nothing to do with trade. It's Taiwan. Might be South China Sea and so forth.
Well, and they want their semiconductors. They don't want us doing any of things. They're the ones who are trying to make this a fruit salad approach.
Well, but we have our concerns. For the president tariffs, the trade imbalance is massive in China's favor. They export to us far more than we do them. As Joe said, there's questions of intellectual property theft, which aren't new. We want them, for example, right now, the fastest growing nuclear arsenal world is China's. one of the things we're going to want is China to ultimately participate in arms control talks. So each side has this enormous agenda.
That sounds like such a massive, like, are we ever going to get anywhere further than a truce?
Yeah, my guess is on the economics. I think, we're going to want to keep it pretty narrow. And I can imagine a kind of rare earths. China will ease some of its export controls. Can I just make a little larger point? We need a rare earths minerals policy. Why do we have a strategic petroleum reserve and we don't have a rare earth mineral reserve? Why do we put ourselves in this position now for 25 years where China has such an ability to throttle the U.S. economy? This is on us. We should never allow ourselves to be put in this position.
Should we be trying to put obstacles in the way of China getting more and more powerful on the global stage, or do we just try to level things out from both sides and then bring it on? We'll try. We got our, we got our guys out in Silicon Valley. We've got all this great stuff here in this country. We've got a great economy.
It's a big debate. And the question is, export controls, ways to slow China down, historically have slowed them down, have added to their costs.
But we want them economically to do well, don't we?
That's part of the contradiction. Historically, we've wanted them to be a partner with us. We had the hunch, probably not borne out. If they were totally engaged in the world economy, it would moderate them. It didn't work so well.
No.
And also, if we try to slow them down, they'll do workarounds. We saw it with Huawei and so forth. We saw it in the chip area. They will find ways to work around. So that's a problem for us. I would say the emphasis ought to be on what we can control. What can we control? Our relationship with our allies, with Japan and others, and our economy. And what we ought to be doing is what we were just talking about, is finding ways to reduce our vulnerability to China. There's no reason, again, that we've allowed this situation to arise with rare earths.
Will you be putting some of your deepest, darkest worries on hold and watching what happens at Oakland? Will you be doing that this weekend?
Well, it's Father's Day weekend, so if there is a weekend where fathers ought to have the right to watch
F
golf,
off,
or play it and watch it. This is.
I'm looking for. It could be over par, I think.
It could be because there's a premium in this one, less on distance and more on accuracy. We were talking about it. The rough, shall we say, is rough.
Yeah, the rough is rough.
There we go.
Very good, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you relax this weekend. I mean, I think about the things you must worry about. You don't sleep at all, do you, at this point?
By the way, I don't work for something called Clearview. It's called Centerview. Just say
I wish you hadn't said that. I wish you hadn't said that to me. Maybe I said it wrong. I'm hoping.
No, it was on the. It's what you read.
I've been railing for 2 days about things like that. And
I apologize.
She's railing at me for railing at them, and so do you see I have a point?
You just kicked the hornet's nest.
Did I just make an enemy? I apologize.
No.
Richard, thank you for joining us. It's great to see you.
You sure it's not? I mean, maybe you're wrong.
Maybe, yeah.
Coming up, we've got efforts to get Senate Republicans to agree on major issues in the reconciliation bill. And in the next hour, Regeneron's founder, Lynn Schleifer, responds to security and concerns in his bid for genetic testing company 23andMe. Those concerns were raised by House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer yesterday right here on Squawk Box. Lynn heard it. He called immediately, was like, wait a second, what's going on? We've got that exclusive interview with Lynn coming up at 8:10 a.m. Eastern Time.
There's some things that work better together, like your workplace benefits and retirement savings. Voya helps you choose the right amounts without over or under investing, so you can feel confident in your financial choices.
Voya, well planned, well invested, well protected.
When logic bends, when certainties shatter, when left is right and right is left, which way do you turn? Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
Rather than get rich quick, I believe in get rich slow. The high yield cash account at Public actually had higher rates than anything else I was able to find online. I don't want to be losing sleep over having made risky investments. I needed something stable that could really give me long-term financial benefits. I know my money's working hard for me, and I know I can access it anytime I need it.
You founded your kayak company because you love the ocean, not spreadsheets. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, candidates can find it easier, so you can hire easier. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
How do you find the perfect Father's Day gift? Simple. Just type WT.com. WeatherTech has hundreds of premium products that will keep Dad's vehicle looking its best. Like laser-measured floor liners, cargo liner, and seat protector for extra interior protection. Sunshade blocks harmful UV rays. The cup phone perfectly secures his phone while driving. Order these American-made products or a gift card at WT.com. Happy Father's Day.
The only thing I don't like about payday is waiting for it. Chime lets you get up to $500 of your pay whenever you need it. There's no interest, no credit checks, no mandatory fees. I'm not waiting for payday anymore, and you shouldn't either. Join me at chime.com and get paid when you say.
Hulu has live music. Get ready to Bonnaroo right from your living room as the biggest artists take the stage. Bonnaroo Music Festival. Streaming live to all Hulu subscribers. Presented by Ray-Ban Meta. Iconic style meets Meta AI.
Why'd I say I'd man the grill? I don't man things. Just find the knob that makes the hot fire come out. Here's the plan. I need burgers, buns. Great. Look at me go. I'm a grilling machine.
How's it going?
Literally about 3 more minutes.
You gotta turn it on.
5 minutes. Go take a dip, dude. Excited to see people bite into my creations.
Coming up, Senate Finance Committee member Roger Marshall from the great state of Kansas on the push to get Republicans to agree on the reconciliation bill so it can get to President Trump's desk by the 4th of July. Squawk Box is coming right back.
With a shield-level annuity from Bright House Financial, your portfolio can benefit from growth potential with a level of protection from market volatility to help you follow your plans wherever they take you. Bright House Financial. Build for what's ahead.
As a contractor, I find sometimes the most impactful thing you can say is what you do on your own home. A couple of years ago, we put a pool in our backyard, my wife and I. There was only one choice for the decking around the new pool. We used TimberTech because of the low maintenance on the product. You can install it and just enjoy it for its lifetime.
ePay, Redwood. I mean, after 1 year, you're sanding and refinishing if you want to keep that sharp look. If you don't want to sand and oil every year, you want low maintenance, go with TimberTech.
New projects means new project managers. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
Down, up, right, left, inside, out. Sometimes it's hard to make sense from nonsense. Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
Gaggenau creates luxury kitchen appliances for those who appreciate the extraordinary. We are dedicated to the idea of less for a life of more. Because luxury is not an object calling attention to itself. Luxury is how we live. It is how we experience the world. It is living life as it should be. We are for those who know. The difference is Gaggenau.
This is the one who helps everyone stay safe. An unsung hero in a building full of everyday heroes is just how he likes it. The industrial-grade products you need. Call, click, or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
No matter where we are in the world, our needs for a fulfilled life are basically the same. Togetherness, connection, support. It's why for more than a century, we've engineered climates that enhance lives, help businesses thrive, and move industries across the globe. And every day, we're innovating smarter ways to make life better, all across the world we share.
The CNBC Disruptor 50 list revealed. Meet the innovative companies shattering boundaries, shaking up industries, and changing the game for good. See the complete list at cnbc.com/disruptor50.
Senate hopefuls, Republicans remain hopeful, they're Senate hopefuls, that they have a reconciliation bill on President Trump's desk by July 4th, with Majority Leader John Thune pushing for all disagreements over the bill to be hashed out by Friday. Joining us now, Republican Senator Roger Marshall, who's a member of the Finance Committee. I don't know if it's been a while, at least, Senator. It's good to have you on. And as I said, I from the great state of Kansas. I used to drive across 4 times a year, going to school out in Colorado. So anything on I-70, I've probably been there, whether it's Hayes or Russell or home of Bob Dole. Good to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
You know, it's great to be on. You know, where my home is just about 30 miles south there of Russell, Kansas. So you're familiar that we're a state of agriculture. Have a little bit of oil as well, though.
You do develop an eye for Kansas, especially when you drive across it enough times. You better, because it's a big state, Senator. So a lot was riding on this week. The most important parts of this bill, the Medicaid parts, the tax parts. We had Senator Johnson on, and I got to tell you, if it wasn't for the constraints of who's in the Senate and who wants certain things, I can see how we'd want to get back to pre-pandemic spending levels. I understand that rationale, but it's not going to be possible with this bill, is it?
Not yet. I think that's a great goal. Senator Johnson certainly recognizes, like I do, the greatest challenge that America faces is our national debt. But the purpose of this bill is to, number one, is to prevent the largest tax increase in American history. We think that by stopping that tax increase and other provisions, that the average American family is going to get to keep $1,000 a month more of their hard-earned money. It's obviously going to secure the border. It's going to cut $1.7 trillion in spending. So this is a step in the right direction. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day either. So the first thing we have to do is grow the economy. We need to flatten spending, and over the next 4 years, get to those pre-pandemic spending levels. I think it's very feasible. We'll take a bite of the apple now. We're going to have to take a couple more bites as these next 3 years go along, though.
The House was able to slightly toughen up some of the Medicaid reform. At least they brought back the work requirements a little bit. But as it's been pointed out so many times, some of the main flaws of Medicaid are not addressed in that bill. And because of the makeup of the Senate, probably not going to be addressed there either. You're an expert. You're a doctor. What should we do? What are we able to do?
Well, look, we need to strengthen and preserve Medicaid for those who need it the most. As a physician, as an obstetrician, we took care of everybody regardless of their ability to pay. And I want everyone to have meaningful access to primary care, and Medicaid provides that. So we're certainly not going to touch seniors. We're not going to touch people with disabilities. Again, we want to impact those who need it the most. On the other hand, we have 7 million healthy American men of working age who aren't working. Let's help those people find a job, help them get off Medicaid. Let's help them either get on the ACA exchange or maybe health insurance through their employer. That's a win-win opportunity. The best safety net out there is a job. So I'm trying to look for that. You can't look at this in silos, but I think that would be my goal, is to help those people that are on Medicaid, that are on food stamps right now, that are working age, they're healthy. Let's help them find a job as well.
Is there a path to that with I don't know, Josh Hawley or Susan Collins? Or what would have to change in the House version for you to really tackle that issue?
Look, I think the House did a really nice job. I think that we need to sync the work requirements between the House, between Agriculture Committee, that would be the SNAP provisions, and then Medicaid as well. I think we can move them up maybe 6 months to start them sooner. But I really think it's the economy. If we have a growing economy, we're going to help move those people from the couch out to work as well. I think that's one way to do it. I think the big problem with Medicaid right now, though, is that we've increased spending 50% in 5 years. So we need to figure out, how do we slow down that spending? In many states, they've figured out ways to gin the system that we are reimbursing hospitals more for Medicaid patients than Medicare. So we need to go back and look at this provider tax and make it fair. at the same time. So if you're building your hospital on a model of Medicaid patients, you're going to go broke. Like you said, I was a physician. I also helped run a hospital. Growing your business or making a business plan on Medicaid is not going to work. We need the people off Medicaid and move them into the exchange or move them into a job where they get health insurance.
Although, Senator Marshall, that's exactly what Josh Hawley and Susan Collins and others have pointed out. They are very worried about hospitals in rural areas that they represent, saying that there will be no hospitals left. And by the way, a lot of hospitals run at incredibly thin margins, 1-2%. You are not talking about a super profitable business for the most part. The reality of that is going to come up against a very hard wall. How do you get around some of those issues? How do you solve for that?
Yeah, so no one knows more about rural hospitals up here on Capitol than I do. I'm the only person that's actually ran a hospital and a rural hospital at that. There's efficiencies that many are not doing. But at the end of the day, we have something called critical access hospitals. They function on a system of Medicare Plus. So those would not be touched with this situation as well. I would make immune nursing homes from this provider tax cut as well. That's such a small amount of money to keep those rural hospitals going. There's other ways to do that. And certainly there's other systems, there's other funding, other mechanisms that they get because they are rural as well. Things are changing in rural America every day. I would love to come back and talk what the rural hospital of the future looks like. It's probably a really good emergency room with good outpatient services and go from there.
Another question for you. Yesterday we had Jason Smith, the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, with us. He talked about fatal provisions that he said the Senate is aware that if they change some of those provisions, it will not survive the House on coming back through. Now, he didn't specify on what some of those things are. We know SALT has been a big issue, the Medicaid, as you've just been discussing. And I heard him, Jason Smith, talking overnight about some other issues. He said that there are some senators who want to make the small business tax cuts permanent, and they want to do that and pay for that by not including taxes on the tax relief on tips or overtime that the president has suggested. He seemed to suggest, Jason Smith, that that is a fatal provision and that will not survive. Where do you come down on that?
Look, you know, everyone's negotiating through the press right now, and everything is negotiable. Look, we're going to get the no tax on tips, overtime wages, Social Security across the finish line in some shape or form. You know, on the SALT tax, my goodness, why should red states be subsidizing blue states to the tune of about $400 billion over the next 10 years? I think there's a sweet spot for us to land on, and we may very well do a bill, send it to them, they may reject it, and send us a bill back. You know, we're not going home, though, until we get something to the president's desk. But this is what's going on. These are powerful negotiations. I've never seen such intense negotiations going on within the Republican caucus right now. There's hundreds of billions of dollars at stake. The future of this country's at stake. It is very interesting times up here.
We'll have you back. We want to talk about your credit card bill. And I was just looking at, you went to KU for medicals. Were you a Hawk guy or a Wheel guy in terms of the bars in Lawrence? Did you have a preference?
Well, first of all, I went to Kansas State for my undergraduate, so I bleed purple. KU Med Center, fortunately, is in Kansas City. And actually,
it is not in Lawrence. Okay.
It's not. And 2 years in Wichita, but love KU basketball and the Will. The answer is the Will, going way back to my own parents going there. So it's a great, Lawrence is an incredible town, too.
Great college town, and maybe one of the best arenas, too, if you like hoops. Senator Marshall, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, come visit us sometime. Yeah, come visit us.
We can come back
and talk about rural hospitals, too. I would like to hear more on that.
Yep.
All right, it is 8 a.m. on the East Coast, and you're watching Squawk Box right here on CNBC. I'm Becky Quick along with Joe Kernan. Andrew is off today. Among today's top stories, the United States and China moving closer to a trade deal after 2 days of negotiations in London. We'll have more on this story coming up in just a moment. General Motors plans to invest about $4 billion over the next 2 years at 3 factories in Michigan, Kansas, and Tennessee. The company is ramping up production of gas-powered cars and trucks as demand for electric vehicles is slowing. And Elon Musk is expressing regret over his public feud with President Trump. He removed some of the most inflammatory things that he posted about the president on X. And early this morning, Musk wrote, I regret some of my posts about President real Donald Trump last week. They went too far.
The futures this morning, as you can see, continue to be right around where they were when we started at 6 a.m. because in about 27 minutes, we'll get the number of the day, and that's the inflation number, CPI report. Let's get to Dom Chu with a look at some of this morning's pre-market movers. Hey, Dom.
All right, so, Joe, let's check in on a few earnings movers so far. GitLab reporting after the bell just yesterday. Those shares are still now falling in the pre-market, down by about 12% after the software company's second quarter guidance disappointed investors. GitLab, though, did post a better-than-expected number for profits and revenues for its previous quarter, with sales up nearly 27% year over year. Some Wall Street reaction is also weighing on the stock. Both RBC and BTIG are maintaining their ratings on GitLab, but they've lowered their target prices, so GitLab shares down 13%. Let's check back in on Chewy. Those results were out earlier this hour, and the stock is just sliding by about 7.5%. The pet supply company beat revenue expectations for the first quarter, but missed earnings estimates. Guidance is also dragging the stock down as well.
Order
Chewy's
submitted.
full-year sales outlook came in below some analyst estimates, so keep an eye on Chewy shares. And by the way, for more on those results, tune into Money Movers later on this morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, to hear from Chewy CEO Sumit Singh in a first on CNBC interview. And we're going to end with a look at United Health shares, down just about 0.5% after analysts at Baird downgraded that stock to a neutral. They also lowered their target price. They're saying that they have done some studies on their Optum Health services unit and some of the uses of their risk adjustment factors versus the industry, and they have maybe some bit of a pause on the health insurer's long-term story. They're finding a bit of pause there. Baird added that it's optimistic that they can find some of those growth stories, but it expects the situation to worsen before it gets better. So, Becky, United Health down 0.5%. I'll send things back over to you guys.
What I missed that. What did they do, the firm, Baird?
They're looking at their risk adjustment factors,
did they
how they calculate them. Yes, they downgraded them, yes.
From what? From what?
So that goes down to I want to say it's a neutral rating right now, so.
It was a $600 stock 2 months ago. It was a $600 stock. It's at $300. They're downgrading it today?
Well, I mean, sometimes
so put that in your, if you own it, put that in your analysis on what your Baird sees something wrong. There at United Healthcare, down to a neutral from a buy.
I think at some point they have to be on the record about some of these things, so. You have to, I mean, if you're an analyst, you got to make a rating,
That's why you get paid the big bucks as the analyst, to be able to downgrade it when it's been cut in half.
I mean, there are such things as catch-up trades, Joe, so, you know, at
there
least we're
are
on
Hines. Yeah, okay. All right, see you later.
The United States and China signaling success after 2 days of high-level trade talks in London. Megan Casella joins us right now with more on that front. Megan, we're still trying to figure out exactly what happened, but a positive move at least.
A positive step in the right direction. That's absolutely right, Becky. So those talks wrapped just before midnight in London, with officials from both sides saying they had agreed to a framework for moving forward. Each delegation is now briefing their respective presidents on the details, and pending approvals, then we will start to see implementation. And I should add here, guys, that just in the last few moments, President Trump actually posted on Truth Social about this deal. He is saying that the deal with China is done, subject to those final approvals. Full magnets, he says, and any necessary rare earths will be supplied up front by China. Likewise, we will provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities, which he says has always been good with him. He goes on to say, we are getting a total of 55% tariffs. China is getting 10%. The relationship is excellent. So clearly, President Trump has been briefed now on these talks, and he's confirming what we had been talking about for the past 2 days, that the focus really stayed on China's rare earths, which should now start to flow to the U.S., and on the U.S.'s export restrictions, which should ease up in return. Here's Howard Lutnick talking about the same topic last night to reporters.
We do absolutely expect that the topic of rare earth minerals and magnets with respect to the United States of America will be resolved in this framework implementation. That is a fundamental part of that. Also, there were a number of measures the United States of America put on when those rare earths were not coming. You should expect those to come off sort of, as President Trump said, in a balanced way. When they approve the licenses, then you should expect that our export implementation will come down as well.
So I'd put it this way, guys, taking everything we just heard, both from the president and from the Commerce Secretary, this is definitely a step in the right direction, but it is a somewhat small one. It roughly puts things back to where they were after Geneva, when the U.S. thought that the rare earths issue was settled. But given that there was no timeline then for China to abide by, the U.S. then felt China was slow-walking the deal. Now we are back on track, clearly. Trump saying the relationship is excellent, but we have to wait to see whether there might be a timeline attached this time, and then whether and how quickly the two sides follow through. Guys.
Hey, Megan, that answers some questions, but it raises a lot of others, and I'm talking specifically about the president's post on Truth Social. I mean, he said that they're going to allow Chinese students to use colleges. Doesn't mention Harvard. Does that include Harvard? Because it was just last week that the president signed a proclamation to restrict foreign student visas at Harvard in particular. That would be my first question. The second is no mention there about semiconductors and what we'd be allowing from our side on things. Rare earths is what rare earths minerals is what we were concerned about. The Chinese have had these implications on the export controls on things like semiconductors.
Absolutely. A lot of questions there. A lot for me to take to the White House now this afternoon to try to clarify further in this post, having just read it in the last minute or so. I'll say on the first question, I would imagine that this includes Harvard. Interesting there that the president says it's always been good by him for Chinese students to attend U.S. colleges and universities, obviously given the turmoil of the past couple of weeks. On the semiconductors front and the export controls, what we heard from Howard Lutnick overnight in London went a little bit further than what the president was saying here. And what we've been hearing all week is that we do expect the restrictions of sort of the past 2 weeks now to ease up only once we start to see the rare earths start flowing. So that's things like the export restrictions on jet engines, the ones on the chip software companies as well that we saw impact markets last week. So I would expect that to ease up, conditional on the Chinese following through. So we'll have to see that first. The third question that I would raise, Becky, from this post, the first one that I looked at, was when he said we will now have total 55% tariffs against China. It's not immediately clear to me where that's coming from. Previously, the level had been at 30%. So more questions there, more to dig into. But he does say, at least, that things are moving in the right direction.
We'll know how everything's settled, I think, when your kids are in college with China. I think the long-term relationship with China and the United States in trade and security and everything else. I mean, how many years? We are talking, you know, I wouldn't even. So it might be small, but it's going to be just done in these incremental steps, I think. Yeah. And it's going to go past the Trump administration.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it is. We got to strap ourselves in for the long haul. Megan, thank you.
All right, when we come back, the battle over genetic testing company 23andMe. Data risks took center stage on Capitol Hill yesterday. We will speak to the founder and CEO of Regeneron, who announced a deal to buy that company. We've got that conversation next. Squawk Box will be right back.
Congratulations, Mom and Dad. Your life now revolves around sports.
Everett, Mila!
But you wouldn't trade it for anything. Welcome to Sporthood. DSG, only at Dick's.
At IHG Hotels and Resorts, you can unplug for the day or plunge into a long weekend. Savor the moment or savor the details. Earn points for free nights with IHG One Rewards.
What does it mean to live a rich life? It means brave first leaps, tearful goodbyes, and everything in between. With over 100 years navigating market ups and downs, we'll help you move ahead with confidence.
At Capital Group, we believe in the potential energy of fixed income. Our distinctive investing approach has delivered strong long-term results. All you have to do to activate this potential energy is activate us. Capital Group Fixed Income, actively different.
When logic bends, when certainties shatter, when left is right and right is left, which way do you turn? Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
Franklin Templeton Custom Tax Management. Easily create custom SMAs with our Canvas platform and help investors keep more of what they earn. Franklin Templeton, your trusted partner for what's ahead.
and only the best will win.
Just blaze. Godzilla bankroll. Stole some chili on. Yo, I ain't got it all. That means I'm barely home.
To the end zone for the touchdown.
Oh, my goodness.
Welcome back, everybody. The sale of bankrupt genetic testing company 23andMe has come under scrutiny for privacy and national security concerns. Congressman James Comer of Kentucky joined us yesterday ahead of his House Oversight Committee hearing and had this to say about the potential buyer of 23andMe.
Regeneron has very close ties to the Chinese Communist Party. We're very concerned about that. We're not accusing anyone of any wrongdoing, but we know that they've had deals before in the past that were partially funded by Chinese Communist Party linked entities. So that's a concern.
All right, joining us right now is Regeneron's founder, chairman, and CEO, Dr. Len Schleifer. Regeneron announced a $256 million deal to acquire 23andMe back in May, but 23andMe wants to reopen the bidding after receiving a $305 million offer from its co-founder and former CEO, Ann Wojcicki. All right, Len, first of all, thank you for joining us. I was surprised to hear this coming out of the congressman's mouth yesterday and kind of pushed back immediately. Like, wait a second, Regeneron, we know Len Schleifer, he comes in here, close ties to the Communist Party. Joe and I were both like, what?
Well, let's just get to, do you speak Mandarin, Schleifer?
Not a word.
Not fluent?
Not one word.
Have you been to China?
I've never been to China.
You called immediately and said, what is he talking about? Like,
yeah.
What is he talking about?
Well, I think, the honorable congressman from Kentucky and chair of the House Oversight Committee is trying to do his job and protect American individuals' data from falling into the wrong hands. But as far as him saying that we have very close ties with the communist Chinese government, that's just categorically not true. I suspect he might have been given some wrong information by his staff.
What deals have you done with China that could be construed into that?
Yeah, so our main products are actually sold through non-Chinese companies who have businesses in China, like Sanofi sells our Dupixent in China, Bayer sells our Eylea in China. So we don't actually have any direct business in China. We have done some licensing deals and some supplies agreements, things like that, like every other company does. But nothing that you would consider.
You offered a therapeutic for a virus that originated in a lab in China.
And we did come up with...
That doesn't really constitute close ties. Maybe that is close ties to the CPI. I don't know whether the CCP was...
They create the disease and we create the cure.
Yeah, exactly. So you do have ties.
I don't think it exactly works that way.
No, that's not...
And as you know well, that monoclonal antibody saved the President Trump's life. So
it was a timely therapeutic at that point.
It was.
Yeah.
That's a whole other story. We could devote hours to it.
Well, let's talk about 23andMe. I am somebody who has given my genetic material to 23andMe a long time ago, 14, 15 years ago. I have concerns about what this means. Why do you want it?
Right. So, look, we understand privacy concerns and individuals not wanting their DNA to fall into other people's hands for nefarious reasons or for no reason. You're entitled to manage your own DNA. On the other hand, I have a child with a genetic illness, and I would be happy if his genetics would be able to help other children like him or prevent disease in the future. And so there is this tension between doing world-class research with genetics, which Regeneron does. We have sequenced nearly 3 million individuals in a totally de-identified way. And so we're trying to balance absolutely respecting individuals' privacy, but moving forward in biotechnology and genetics research.
As the consumer, I mean, look, I have a child with a rare genetic disease too, and I'm all in favor of that. But as a consumer, I didn't give you the right to have my genetic material. Should there be an opt-in policy instead of an opt-out policy as it exists today? How do I know that you're going to protect my safety and my standards and my privacy.
Yeah, the details of the consent forms and what have you is something that the court is looking over very carefully. As far as if we were the winner, I think we have a long history of protecting people's genetic and other health information, and we take that extremely seriously. But once again, we're trying to set this balance. There's a commission called the National Security Commission on Emerging Biotechnology, and actually Eric Schmidt is of Google fame, is one of the commissioners, and they recognize that we're in a big competitive situation here, and biotechnology is critical to our national security, literally our physical security, our health security, our food security, and we have to make sure that we advance that in a way that's consistent with Americans' belief that individuals have the right to.
But why is it for sale? Why is my information for sale?
Well, I don't think
Instead of me saying, okay, I agree with you, and I'll sign off, and you can take it.
Yeah, I'm perfectly happy with people affirmatively signing off or not signing off, as the case may be.
Right, because I'd have different thoughts if it was a Chinese company. I wouldn't want them.
I don't understand why Regeneron's even interested, except that it's 200. What is that? You find that in the couch? Right. You're a $55 billion company. That was a company that was worth a lot more. Is this just an attractive price? Does it fit in with Regeneron's long-term business?
We don't know if we're even going to win this.
No, but if you did, it's not. I don't see it as some type of.
Is it essential to us? Absolutely not.
Does it do anything for you other than it's really cheap?
No. Well, we just don't want to buy things that are cheap. We want to buy things that have value.
Well, I mean, it's sort of It might take a lot of dots to get to how it makes sense for Regeneron, right?
No, I think that. Remember, we have done more to use genetics to create new drugs, I think, than any other company in our industry.
Okay, so.
And we could do, with more genetics, we could get more drugs faster. And so I think that is important.
How would it work? Like, if you had this information, how would you kind of put it into your pipeline? What would you be going after first? Do you already have targets for drug potential candidates? Or?
Yeah, well, what the genetics actually would allow you to do, once we satisfied properly the privacy aspects of acquiring the DNA and de-identifying it so it can be utilized without knowing whose it is, what you need to do is get DNA and get health information, marry them, but strip out any personal identifier. Once you have that, we have shown that the more people you have, the more power you can ask questions about how our genes determine our health. And if you can figure that out, you can come up with drugs, as we have. Some of the biggest, most important drugs in the world have been predicted exactly like Dupixent. Our genetics predicts all the half a dozen or more indications that Dupixent would work in to treat allergic diseases.
Like what? But for allergic diseases?
Yeah, allergic diseases like asthma, like eczema, like eosinophilic esophagitis, and so forth, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. The genetics provides you a lot of confidence on how to proceed, where to proceed. Okay.
You are swaying me, because I do know one of the huge arguments in the rare genetic disease community is if we could test children as they're born, babies as they're born, that would be the key to trying to find cures, trying to find better identification and better treatment.
Let me give you a fabulous example that will really get you on our side. If you imagine there are children, not that many, who are born, thankfully not that many, who are born profoundly deaf. And we now know it's because of a single gene mutation that they're profoundly deaf. Well, the scientists at Regeneron have actually, and we can show you, maybe the next time we're here, we can show you a video of a child who never heard anything, and now it can communicate, talk, and understand because we put a gene back in their ear, and it restored hearing. That is a miracle.
How does it go back into the genome, not just the ear?
Yeah, you have to inject it.
Do you get it to go, is it expressed in the kid's genome from there on out?
No, it's just expressed in the...
Just in the ear?
In the inner ear.
A single base pair or a stretch?
No, we put in a whole gene. It's unbelievable that you can do this, and you can make...
Where is it? How does it go? Where's the gene?
We make the gene and put it into one.
Good morning. You guys ready? We got 7 minutes.
It's in a box.
Dude, look at all the squeezes on the radar. It's like 10 of them.
I mean, it's emotional just to think about it.
I don't think we're gonna pump. We might dump and then we just buy the dip at open. Hopefully. Big hope.
Standard. I trust you to do that. But there is a higher offer that's potentially out there from Amajitsky. What would you raise your bid? She's offering $305 million. Would you raise your bid for this? Is it
Well, we'll get a chance to see that when the auction reopens, and can't talk about our strategy on.
Well, I think you can go up from there.
Yeah, I hope Ninja Trader doesn't mess up.
Forgetting about the details.
Be expensive YOLO.
We're going to do genetics business. Okay, we're going to use genetics in a compliant way, but we're going to use it to advance health security. And we've got to have a bigger conversation. You guys can lead it. We have got to stop attacking the pharmaceutical industry, the biotechnology industry. We've got to do something that at the same time satisfies affordability, which is really important, right? But also, if we're going to lose the race, remember, a long time ago, the United States made like 40% of the chips. Now, it's dropped down to like 5 or 10%. We're the leaders in biotechnology, but the Chinese and others are investing heavily, and they're catching up or going to pass us. And if we keep attacking this industry instead of congratulating it and working with it and monitoring it, it's okay. It's okay that they held a hearing, that Comer and Lynch held a hearing to make sure people's private genetic information remains private. But we've got to foster this industry to move forward, or we are in deep trouble.
Yeah, I think you made a very cogent argument and one that definitely sways me. I would like to see more of what you guys are working on with this.
Comer probably did mean 23andMe, I think.
You can ask him that, but it couldn't be rejected.
Because exactly.
That.
And you don't want China to get
I don't want China to have this information.
We don't either. So we just won't shake hands because I'll get your DNA when I leave.
No, the things you guys are working on when it comes to this, I think, are amazing.
1 minute, guys.
You're right, and there needs to be oversight of it. But
can I ask you something out on because I keep seeing it on Twitter? Do you think that mRNA vaccines, that proteins are made years after by the mRNA that was injected for the vaccine? I don't believe that. Isn't the half-life of messenger RNA like
it's short? I doubt that. I'm not the world's expert.
Is there any way it could be transcribed into someone's genome? You know what I mean? Like an RNA virus.
I would doubt it, but I think
We're gonna dump. CPI is gonna dump for sure, and then we buy the dip.
There are issues with vaccines.
I'll start at 15 seconds before it goes.
Right. We don't know the effect of the immune system.
That study. On the other hand,
they say it's bacon. Yeah,
dying is not such a great alternative.
No.
So polio, I have a lot
of diseases.
I remember taking the polio vaccine in school. I mean, it was
that's the thing, we've forgotten how fortunate we are to have made this progress.
It's okay to have a conversation.
When they're taking us away. Please come back. We're going to continue this conversation.
Absolutely. Great to see you all.
Thanks. See you.
Who's gonna gamble CPI with me? Anybody? How do you trade CPI? Go short and go long. YOLO. All on evals though. Don't do it on funded. I got 2 minutes.
Uses one fake note for his name. They then take out loans using your home equity, and the worst part of it is
You just need to pass like 2 out of 6 is good. 3 out of 6 is awesome. You got like 1 minute soon.
With their various sizing options. than jeans, more stylish than sweats.
At Avocado, luxury isn't just comfort, it's consciousness, it's craftsmanship, it's choosing better. Inspired by the beauty of our planet, we design for the dreamers. Every stitch, thoughtfully placed to elevate your sleep.
1 minute, boys.
Natural and organic materials, sustainably sourced, meticulously crafted. Because true luxury isn't just how it feels, it's how it's made. Discover our full line of luxury mattresses at avocadomattress.com.
This thing is so good for your gut health. They used to have collagen, they used to have probiotic, a green juice that replaced it all with this pharma colostrum.
My hair has gotten so much thicker ever since taking it.
Funky smelling zooglea bacteria lives, grows, and sticks inside everyone's air conditioner drain pan, creating disgusting odors in your home and also causes your AC to clog up and ultimately shut down.
Order filled. 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 Order filled.
All right. It's all luck now. Let's go. I think I passed. I think I passed 3. There we go. Blow that shit.
Order filled.
Ooh. Wow.
Consumer price index data. The futures
Let me check my shit.
the Treasury.
Ooh, that's wild.
Most of the numbers that we follow are at some key levels. So you see the
I think I passed 2 Tradeify and 1 Apex, so 50-50. I'm gonna let it slow down and test it out. Let's go.
Leachman is around, so is
Alright,
Santoli.
52.
Expected up 2/10 comes in on the light side.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait till it slows down. Even Go is moving fast.
For now, unrevised up 2/10. Up 1/10 would be the lightest since it was minus 1/10 in March of this year. If you strip out the all-important food and energy, it remains up 0.1%. That's 2/10 lighter than we were expecting, 1/10 lighter than the rear view mirror. Up 1/10 equals where we were in March of this year. To find a lower number, you're going to 0. Which
Damn, we're going all-time high now. Holy shit.
Perspective, expecting year-over-year headline up 2.4, and it arrives exactly up 2.4.
I'll be back when the market's open. I'll turn off the mic.
It equals the 2.4
Good luck.
March. That's the higher number we're comping to. Finally, if we go year-over-year core ex food and energy, it's up 2.8, 1/10 lighter than we were expecting, equals where we were last month. 2.8 actually now is 3rd consecutive month in a row. If you want a smaller number than that, you're going all the way back to March of 21 when it was up 1.6. Now, I always like to look at the indices. These indices go back
Order filled.
Look at CPI headline index. It goes back to 1913, and the number today, 321.465, might not mean
Order rejected.
to viewers intrinsically, but it is the highest level on this index ever, going back to 1913. That should mean something. And if we strip out the all-important food and energy, it comes
Order
out at
filled.
326.854. Once again, this number started out in 1957 on the core. It's never been higher. We see that the pre-opening equities, well, they have improved rather markedly. We now see green, and interest rates have dropped dramatically. We're hovering just a whisker under 4.5% in the 10-year. We're now at 4.44%. So definitely the cooler than expected monthly numbers once again are going to create that wonderful weekend armchair quarterback scenario of trying to look at the outlying months over the next 3 and 6 months and trying to discover what they may be using the current monthly estimates. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do, and inflation certainly looks like it is cooling a bit, but as the year-over-year numbers do tell us, Joe and the gang, we're still a little bit on the high side with a 2% target. I'm interested to see if anybody at CNBC today talks about the notion that the Bureau of Labor Statistics isn't doing an adequate job of polling for CPI due to freezing of hiring or maybe even cutbacks due to the current administration. My one question would be, what was their enrollment and what was their rank and staff prior to COVID? Let's see what the comparison is. Joe, Becky.
And why would fewer people wouldn't necessarily give you cooler numbers? It could just be a higher margin for error. So, you know, I'll tell you, Rick, the people that we've been having on, even though they think next month will be even more telling about tariffs, but a lot of them were looking for something. We just had Michelle Girard on. She's been looking at something worse every month. Once again, it didn't happen.
That those 9 Democratic senators trying to have
Order submitted.
this looked into it, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, have political motivations?